Good evening, and welcome to our 2018 LULAC Florida Award Ceremony and Gala. I know it's been a very busy weekend, and as we could see, some of our guests are either pooped or in their rooms, but I'm pretty sure they'll come little by little. But we are very thankful for all of you for being with us and for joining us in all our events. It is very difficult, and I understand the long hours that we spend here, but how beautiful it is that we're able to get together and spend it together for one weekend. So I want to thank each and every one of you for taking the time and for sticking it out to the end and coming to our gala. We're going to begin with recognizing our sponsors. So if we have our sponsors here, please stand up, because again, we like to recognize them in each event because we want to acknowledge them. Without them, we would not be able to have this event. So thank you once again. We also want to acknowledge our representatives that are here. We have Representative Javier Fernandez, so thank you for being here, and his wife, for enduring all of us that invite him to come and attend all these events. And I know it takes a lot of time from you, but thank you. Thank you for being with us. Also, Ms. Tadeo is on her way, and we have her representative here. And once she walks in, later on after dinner, she will be delivering the keynote speech for us tonight. We also want to recognize candidates who are brave enough to get into the race of politics and to represent the Hispanic community and all communities. So please, if you are a candidate, please stand up. And let's give them a round of applause, because it's not easy. And later on tonight, we will get to hear from them, because it's very important for us. Our role as citizens is to make sure that we listen and that we engage ourselves and make sure we cast a vote when elections come in. Every single election is important. Okay? We also want to see Dr. Lidia Medrano, who is a LULAC VP of our Southeast region. Roberto Canino, who is our LULAC International Ambassador for Latin America and the Caribbean. And Dr. Castro Feinberg, who is just simply Dr. Castro Feinberg. Any members of our state board, please stand up. And I know Ms. Cantu is here, so please stand up. Maggie, that without Maggie, this event would not be happening, so she's probably running around doing something. But Maggie, oh no, there you are. You're actually sitting down. Yes, let's give her a big hand and applause. Kari's not here, but she's our treasurer, but she has to take care of her mom. But we want to recognize her as well, because she was here all day helping us, and she set up the room for us. Carita Sabatier is our treasurer. And the different VPs that we have that serve in the capacity for our youth, our elderly, and everything that they do for LULAC Florida. So we also want to give them a round of applause. We have David Sinclair. If you could stand up, David, and he is the one in charge making sure you are informed about our climate issues. So let's give him a big round of applause. Dr. Pontier, who is just amazing and making sure that we continue the governance fight on all legislation. Also, we have our young leaders that she will be leaving us today, but Megan Corujedo, our political person that makes sure that we make all those phone calls and all those connections with our politicians that are representing us. Megan Corujedo. Do we have any? We have Mr. Wilder, Christopher. And I want to tell you a little something about Christopher. Christopher called me and emailed me to put some action into UF because they were trying to take a casita, which is a place of gathering for our Hispanic students at UF. And they were trying to combine it with others in order to limit our Hispanic students in UF. And he wrote, and we wrote to all those board members, and we stopped that. So thank you, Christopher, for taking action. We're very proud of you. So if there, Adelma from Tampa, she is our District 1 director. So we want to recognize her because she does wonderful work in Tampa. And all my LULAC members, once again, stand up, just in case I miss anybody, and let's give them a big round of applause for doing the work that they do in Florida. And our District 3 director, Julio Alba, and he was just elected, so you will get to hear a lot from him as well. So thank you. We're going to have Carla Cantu come up and do the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And Marcelino Rivera, he's going to do the invocation.
Please join me if you are inclined to pray. Thank you, God, for this wonderful event tonight. Please bless our food, and thank you for giving us this opportunity to be together as a community. Amen.
And before we start eating, I want to do one more acknowledgement. Ms. Gemma Castillo, I want to say thank you because she actually is taking from her time to cover all events, and she works for Dade County Public Schools, and we are very grateful because she wants to make sure that we get the coverage we need for our Hispanic communities, and she has been taking us to the radio and promoting this event and anything for our children here in Dade County, so thank you. So with that, we will eat, and then we'll resume in a couple minutes. The National Puerto Rican Women will be hosting a scholarship luncheon fundraiser, and it will be award scholarship to outstanding Latinas with Puerto Rican ancestry. The event will be held on Sunday, June 24th, from 11 to 2 p.m. at the Miami Shores Country Club. And you can buy the tickets by going to www.nacoprw.org, www.nacoprw.org, and they are $40. Okay, so I wanted to make that announcement. Oh, okay, so add Miami to it? Add Miami to it? Okay, so www.nacoprwmiami.org. So make sure you can support that by going on the website, and the tickets are $40. Thank you. So tonight we want to also recognize our Dade County Wonder Woman, and it's a dynamic duo because there's no matter what we need as a community, we could go to these two women, and they are always very receptive, always ready to work a plan and get their job done. So I want to acknowledge, while they're eating, our Senator Annette Tadeo, who will be later on our keynote speaker, and our school board member, Luby Navarro. So when we continue with the program now, we have, again, our representative, Javier Fernandez. And Javier Fernandez will come up for a couple minutes just to share a couple words with you before he has to go to his next event. And we appreciate, once again, him being here with us.
Thanks again and good evening. As I'm standing between your dinner, I'll be brief. Glad I did not take that first bite of the steak. It's been a lot of fun to be here today in the company of so many of you and learning about issues like climate justice early this afternoon. an issue that we'll be, as a community here in Miami-Dade County, at the forefront of as it evolves, and see how we tackle the many challenges attendant to that issue, be it in transportation, equity around eventually probably some relocation, et cetera. So a good, very informative session. Hope you all learned a lot this afternoon at the many sessions that were offered and over the course of the last couple of days. I know and I hope that from this experience we'll take back this information into our respective communities and do the very coalition building at the end of the day that'll help bring our community and our state forward. So thank you again for your participation and your support of this event and all the work you will do and have done in your communities to date. Thank you.
And thank you. We also want to thank our organizations that were part of the roundtable on Friday. We had over 28 organizations here, and we hosted a roundtable where we addressed the issues that are going on with the state plan on ESSA, and to make sure that we bring equity and opportunity to every single student here in Florida. So for those of you that participated in the organizations that are still here with us, and those that had to return, we want to say a big thank you. And it was a great hit, and some people are still talking about it and saying that they want to duplicate it throughout their state. So let's look forward to continuing the conversation and improving education for all students here in Florida. I would like to call up Neri Lopez, and she is from the Florida Immigration Coalition. I have asked her to come up because we cannot just look the other way with what is happening with immigration here in our nation. We are a nation of values, and we are a nation of immigrants. And tragically, that is being dismantled by this new administration. And whether we're Republicans or Democrats or non-party affiliated, we just can't simply afford to look the other way. Children are suffering today. Families are being separated. And we cannot just say, it doesn't involve me, it's not happening to me, so stay silent. We need to send a big message to our politicians, whatever party they are, that this is not the America that we and our parents and our ancestors have built. We are a nation of values. We are a nation that deserves better than this. So we need to demand better from them, and if they're not willing to give us better, we need to make sure that we all show in the ballot box what the message is. So I want to bring up Neri, and I thank her, Neri Lopez, from the Florida Immigration Coalition, a great partner with us nationally and locally, and so she could update us on what's going on.
Hi everyone, my name is Neri, and I'm here representing with Flick as an organizer here in the Miami area. As we all know, the DACA program is something that was given to undocumented youth to give them an opportunity to continue their education and to help provide for their families. Last October, DACA was rescinded, and it has been a long continued fight with Congress to give a permanent solution for over 800 students. 2 days ago, Paul Ryan announced there will be a vote on an immigration bill this coming week. As a DACA recipient myself, I feel that this bill is an anti-immigrant bill because it continues to separate families. It continues to make inhumane deportations and extreme border security. We want something that will protect everyone, all the 11 million undocumented youth community, and also it will help to bring those families together and those children that are constantly being separated and are not able to have a say in what's going on. So if you would like to get involved with Florida Immigrant Coalition, we do a lot of work with our immigrant community here in the Miami area and also in Central Florida with knowing your rights and helping students know that we do have in-state tuition here in Florida that was passed in 2014, and that's a big win for us, and there's a long way to go, but we will continue this fight. Thank you.
In the organizational roundtable, I also mentioned one organization that is called Be a Match. And I want to talk a little bit about it today because when I saw the presentation, it was heartbreaking. One of the things that we also have to address in order to bring equity and opportunity to people is healthcare. And many of our Hispanic communities and our black and brown children all over the United States are in a big, big, big disadvantage when it comes to healthcare. Just because the parents are not able to afford healthcare, many of our children do not get the proper care that they need. One of those things is blood disorders. And one of the things that caught my attention with this organization is that ethnicity has everything to do to save the life of a child that has a blood disorder. If you're white, you need somebody who's white to donate. And if you're Hispanic or black, you need someone from your same ethnicity to be able to donate. And it's as simple as taking a swab and doing a test. And that test will put you in a bank, and they could match to see if there's a child whose life you can save. So we are going to help this organization kind of pass out the information, and we're going to be posting this information on LULACFlorida.org. And I will create a button that will be called Be a Match, so please make sure that you click on it and that you get the information that's out there, because unfortunately, not many people know about this, and every day children die because simply there's not a match for them. And the Hispanic and the black bank that we have is very limited because of the lack of education and the lack of understanding of what it takes. A lot of people kind of cringe and they think it's something that is really invasive, and it's not. So science has come a long way, and we could save a lot of lives. So I will be putting that button on LULACFlorida.org, and if you could please visit it and just disseminate the information with your organizations or the people that you serve, so to see how many lives we could save within our communities. So we are going to begin our program, and I want to recognize someone who is a very dear friend of LULAC, because in Miami-Dade, not too long ago, we had to fight for our bilingual programs. These programs, at that time, were being phased off, and it was blamed on the community, saying that the community was really not interested in our children receiving bilingual education, saying that, which something that is true, because we live in a state that has it in their statutes that this is an English-only state. That means no other languages are approved by the state. So in Miami-Dade, which was one of the few counties that still had bilingual education offered to the students, they started phasing them off little by little. And LULAC Miami decided to, or the councils in Miami decided to come together and address this issue and advocate for our bilingual programs. And we decided to create a forum, because they told us that the community was simply not interested, that they didn't want it. So we said, okay, not a problem, Superintendent, if that is the issue, we will go and host a forum and see really what is going on with the community and to see why they're really not interested. And needless to say that it was packed, people came out, and people defended our bilingual programs. And there was an uproar for weeks and weeks, and it was in the newspaper for weeks and weeks. And we were able to stop them from dismantling our bilingual program. And there was one person in particularly that I called to be on our panel, because I know, and from other events that I had attended, what a great voice she was for the Hispanic community. And when I called Senator Tadeo, she didn't flinch. She immediately said, absolutely, and she was one of the first persons to be on that panel. And I cannot tell you what an inspiration she was on that panel, because not only did she have the knowledge, the research, and the business, that she knew exactly how important bilingual education is for all students, not only for Hispanic students, but for all students. She defended them, and she went on that panel, and she was just a superstar and a great voice for us. So I do not want to delay it. I would like to call our Senator, Annette Tadeo, to come up and be so she could deliver our keynote address. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for all that you do, and I mean all of you. This is so special to be here and to be in the company of so many wonderful people. I am delighted to see School Board Member Luby Navarro here being honored because she does deserve the honor. She works very hard on behalf of our students. She's part of my district. Thank you so much, Luby. Congratulations. And to our newest member of the legislature, I used to say, I'm the newest member of the legislature. I can't say that anymore. He won a special election after I won my special election. So wonderful, Javier Fernandez. You're going to be just like an amazing leader. I know that, in Tallahassee. And we need leadership, that's for sure. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I see some familiar faces, but it's truly an honor to be here with you tonight. Now, my goal tonight is a little bit different. I'm going to be telling you a bit of how I've gotten where I am today, in spite of all the obstacles and barriers along the way, and because of all the obstacles and barriers along the way. Now, you may be asking yourself, how does a girl from Colombia end up becoming the first Latina Democrat in the Florida Senate? I came to America when I was 17. Although I was born a US citizen to an American father and a Colombian mother, we fled an unstable Colombia after the FARC terrorist group had kidnapped my father. They especially targeted Americans, and due to my father's service in the US Air Force, the danger was even greater for all of us. The good news is that due to the ingenuity of my dad, he escaped to safety. I was the first one in the family to leave Colombia. So imagine, I'm 17 years old, and I come to this country on my own and without speaking hardly any English. But like everything in my life, I didn't take the easy route and move to Miami. No, señor. I moved to Huntsville, Alabama. I'm taken in by an Alabama family that truly was the definition of Southern hospitality. So much so that to this day, I called them my Alabama mom and dad. You know, in today's news cycle where we're hearing about these kids being separated from their parents, some of us at an older age were separated from our parents, and I take it very personal when this is happening. I think of the fact that we are not just fighting Democrat, Republican, we're fighting for the soul of our country. You do not do that. So many of us have had to be separated, whether you're Cuban, Nicaraguan, wherever you're from. We've been separated from our parents, not because we wanted to, but because we had to. And it was traumatic. And we came ahead of it, but we weren't incarcerated because of it. And I think we all need to stand up and say, that's not the soul of America that we know and love. So, but even with I want you to know about, I get to Alabama, my limited English, I wasted no time. I immediately got myself a little boyfriend. I remember one time on a date, I asked him if he could stop at a drugstore. Like the cocky young man that he was, he's like, why? What do you need to get? And I'm like, nothing. He goes, well, you need to tell me why. Why? What do you need to get? Nothing. Well, if you don't tell me what in the world you need to get, I'm not going to take you. And the Latina blood in me starts boiling, and I'm like, I need a condom. He looks at me like, oh, and then he gets this big grin on his face. He thinks he's going to get lucky. And that's when I realized, oh my God, I said the wrong word. I meant tampon. The struggle was real. I know you guys are going, oh my God, she's a politician and she's telling the story. Well, I got great stories. So I graduated from high school, but with my limited English, my test scores were horrendous. If only you can imagine my English with a combination of a Southern drawl and a Spanish accent. My ACT score was so bad that I don't even think I got points for getting my name right. So here was another obstacle in my life. But because I knew furthering my education was something I really wanted to do, I didn't give up, and I studied for 2 years, getting non-credit English courses to improve my English so I could go to college. Well, after 2 years of working to improve my English, I got into college. But not just any college. Are you ready? I got into the University of North Alabama. Woohoo! I was actually very lucky to get into any university because, again, my scores were really bad. And I think it's really sad that we spend so much emphasis on testing because that doesn't truly necessarily measure somebody's intelligence, just whether or not they're good on a test. So that's why you'll see me fighting for us not to emphasize so much on that. So I was actually very popular in my school. They all loved to hear my accent. Think Sofia Vergara at the University of North Alabama. That's what I sounded like. I have another funny story to tell you. One night at the university, somehow I ended up with my Zeta sisters. I got in a sorority. We were spying on a boyfriend of one of them who we believed was cheating. And somehow we got into his apartment. Somehow. And I told you, I'm not the typical politician. And on the coffee table in this, as we walk in, is this big kilo-sized bag of what looked like marijuana or weed. One of my friends grabs it and says, "What is this?" And everyone then looks at me, and they give me the bag, and they say, "Annie," that was my nickname, "you're Colombian. Is this marijuana?" Now, mind you, the closest I ever got to a kilo-sized bag of marijuana was on the TV screen. But like the dutiful Colombian, they expected me to inspect it, so I get it up to my nose, and I smell it, and I go, "It's oregano!" Now, thank goodness my friend dumped that guy because there's got to be something not so normal with you if you're buying oregano by the kilo. So, for me, Alabama opened my eyes, and in more ways than one. The idea for my translating business came from my experience when I did an internship translating very technical documents for the Tennessee Valley Authority. But it wasn't until a hurricane hit my parents' home in Miami that another obstacle came in my way. I had graduated college and was interviewing for CNN en Español in Atlanta. Life threw me another curveball. Instead of taking the job and moving to Atlanta, I ended up going back to Alabama, buying a motorhome, and driving it straight down the turnpike to my parents' home so they could have a place to live right here in Miami after Hurricane Andrew. My parents were now elderly, so I took on the job of fighting the insurance companies and getting their home rebuilt. I even started my business out of that home after it was rebuilt. And I started translating and teaching Spanish to executives in Miami. And as I was trying to grow the business, here I was out of my parents' home. The phone would ring, and I would say, "Language speak, how may I help you?" And they would say, "May we speak to Annette Tadeo?" "Please hold." Then I'd come back, "Hey, how are you? This is Annette." Today, the business does 240 languages, and it's been rated one of the top Hispanic-owned businesses in Florida and in the country. So I'm very proud of that. Now, my passion for politics started in college when I ran in my first election. Now I'm back in Alabama. I ran for student government secretary. And I remember putting up posters all over the school with my picture on them, and they said, Tadeo for secretary. Even though there were only a handful of Hispanics at my university at the time, I never felt that in any way I was being discriminated against or treated differently because of my background or my accent. So imagine my surprise when I saw on my way to vote on the day of the election that secretary was crossed out, and instead they said Tadeo for deportation. It's still hard to talk about this. For me, it was the first time I realized that there were people that saw me differently. But you know what? Trials and tribulations doesn't just try you, it reveals who you are. So rather than being bitter, I decided then and there that I would run for office someday. Trust me, we all have times in our lives where you will be tested beyond your wildest beliefs. And in those moments, I want you to know that challenges should become your motivation. Hardships will require your creative solutions, and setbacks are only the beginning for a major comeback. After my election loss for student government secretary, I lost 4 straight elections, in case you didn't know, including a statewide race where Governor Charlie Crist asked me to be his running mate for lieutenant governor. People have called me a loser with a big L. As a matter of fact, although I stand before you as a state senator, I really had no plans to run for state senate. But when my state senator had to resign after making racial and sexist remarks to African American senators, my phone started ringing from community leaders asking me to run. But I also got a call from the head of the Democratic Party to let me know that the leaders and donors had decided I couldn't run, that I could not win, that they were going to make sure I was not the nominee. I have to tell you, they even told me that the only way that I could ever run was over their dead bodies. But they didn't know that with every loss, I would wipe off the tears and go out with a smile and do it all over again. Why? Because I learned from each and every loss. I grew. Our election was not expected. We were not expected to win. We had everything going against us. I was constantly reminded that I was not Cuban, and as such, could not win. They had $7 million, we had 3. No Democrat had ever won a special election and turned a seat from red to blue in Florida history. And then Irma hit, right before early voting. Seems like hurricanes follow me. People in my district still were without power on the day of the election. As a matter of fact, the night of my special election win, all the media was at my opponent's victory party. Even the Miami Herald, who had endorsed my opponent, had to use an old picture on the front page of the paper because they weren't there to get my victory shot. You know, most of us measure our success on the parameters set by others. No wonder some feel like failures. If you have a passion for something but still aren't good at it, it's okay. Be patient and then practice some more. So before I end today, I know each one of you is here because you love our community and our country and believes that we can do better and can represent our communities. You know, Thomas Edison said, "Our greatest weakness lies in giving up." The most certain way to succeed is always to try one more time. So today I ask you to join me. Let's be optimistic and never for a second limit what we think we can achieve. Today, push back on cynicism and naysayers and those that say you can't, you won't, or you shouldn't. ¿Listos? Let's go change the world. Thank you.
Now tonight, we do this program in order to also award people in our community and some of our outstanding LULAC members. And all of them are outstanding, so this is really, really hard. But we would like to start with an award for enhancing the political influence of Hispanics award. And that award goes to a lady that we could really call a leader in our school board. Whenever our community needs something, or something is just not working out for our students, she's just simply a phone call or a text away. She's always available and always addresses our issues or all children's issues on the school board. And it's great to see that in our school board, because our school board was kind of dormant for a while. And she has brought some life and some woman power into the school board, showing what a true leader needs to do when you run for office and you get elected. And it doesn't matter what party you are. It doesn't mean if you don't agree with your party, it's okay to make people uncomfortable. And that she has done. So we would like to award Luby Navarro the Enhancing the Political Influence of Hispanics Awards on behalf of LULAC, Florida. And if Dr. Lydia Medrano could come up with us, please. So I think they're going to be here. So.
Thank you, Mary. Good evening, everyone. It is such a pleasure to be here and to receive this amazing recognition by an amazing organization that fights every day across the country, but particularly here in Florida as you convene in your national convention to ensure that the rights of Latino citizens are always in the forefront of issues in our community. Like Senator Tadeo, I'm honored to be here, and, as well as with Representative Javier Fernandez, who fight for our state. We have to continue to be united because we're living in very turbulent times, facing our Hispanic communities across this country, and our children particularly, which is my passion. And those of us that speak Spanish, and ensuring that we do everything possible in our community to provide our opportunities for our children, which are our nation's future leaders, educators, lawyers, and doctors. And I want to thank the leadership of this state board, led by the amazing, my favorite constituent, Mary. I have to say I'm biased. I have the very best living right in the heart of my community, who keeps me on my toes every single day to ensure that we fight for our communities, our children, especially our children that come to this country, just like myself. I came when I was 5 from Cuba, lost at sea for 3 days with my parents, and then was put into the Chrome Detention Center, and we were there for days. I still remember that odyssey, being lost, and about 63 other families with children in the Florida Straits in September 1980, during almost the close of the Mario boat lift. And I remember coming to this country after being released from Chrome with my family. We were in Hialeah for a few days, and then we went to New Jersey. And I remember walking into my first day of school in first grade, because I finished kindergarten in Cuba. My mother was a teacher. And I remember the feeling I felt not understanding the language, and how that was so painful that it stayed with me and it stays with me every single day. And how we have been able to turn that around with the advocacy of organizations such as LULAC and other Hispanic organizations that provide support and opportunities for our children who come to this country every day, and language is their number one barrier to access any equity and opportunity in our public schools. So I challenge all of you to help these children across our county and our state to ensure that when they enter a public school system, we in that public school system provides everything possible to ensure that those children succeed and don't get stuck in the system that does not allow them to become independently and economically with opportunities for them to be able to enter college and have access to college and the workforce opportunities. So we must continue to be united to fight for these issues as we continue to advocate for children. I want to thank you all for this award. I'm truly honored, again, for being here tonight and receiving this. Thank you.
Our next award goes to LULAC Man of the Year, someone who has come to renovate Miami-Dade here and help us build more councils with our Hispanic community. And that would be our District 3 Director, Julio Alba. He is LULAC Man of the Year. Our next award goes to someone that I call often because, you know, Florida is composed and it's kind of long, and we don't have really access to all the cities. And when I call her, there's not been one time that she has said no. She always is eager and willing to help, even when she goes on a weeks cruise. And that goes to Delma Rodriguez. She is LULAC Women of the Year from Tampa. We're going to do it in the... Our next award goes to the Sarasota Council of the Year, 7261. And Jerry couldn't be here because she had another commitment, but we'll make sure that she gets the award. Hopefully, we will have our next convention over there. They are super excited, and it's much needed in that community. So we're looking forward to that. So it's Council 7261 from Sarasota, Florida. Now, all this work doesn't go unnoticed. We do have people behind the scenes that do amazing work. Most of us work. Like I said, this is a volunteer organization. Some are retired, but a lot of us do hold full-time jobs. So during the day, we're very limited because we have our responsibilities to do. But there are people behind the scenes that sometimes I have to acknowledge a man who really allows me to do this work, because a lot of this work always comes after school hours. And that is my husband, Darren Corujedo. And I want to give him a big hand because he's always around and always helping us do whatever we have to do to make sure that this important work gets done. We also have our intern, and I kind of forced them to become interns because they just live with me. I have Amanda Corujedo who's working, but usually when you get an email during the day, she's usually the person sending it to you. So she is our intern. I kind of give her directions of what I need and kind of do a little draft for her, and she sends them out all to make sure that all our LULAC members are in communication. Then we have our committee, our outstanding Miami-Dade convention committee. And some I just keep bothering, and even though they have full-time jobs and kids, they always do an amazing job to make sure that we deliver the best convention we can to Miami. So I want to thank Dr. Ryan Pontier, if you could come up so we could recognize you. Those of you in elected office and those of you in the community, I cannot tell you the expertise that Mr. Pontier brings to our organization. So if you have any questions on education, on legislation, on bilingual education, and why it's so important to be bilingual anywhere here in the United States, you could reach out to him because he is just amazing. So thank you, Ryan. And then the soul of our LULAC Florida, the one that puts us to work, and I love it. What can I say about Dr. Rosa Castro-Feinberg that we haven't said already? She is just a brain that we all need to tap into, because if you don't know something, she will let you know. And if there's a task that needs to be done, she will make sure that we organize whatever needs to be done to deliver to our community. So we want to recognize Dr. Rosa Castro-Feinberg for being a LULAC Florida champion as well. Come on up. Thank you. And then we have Dr. Carla Cantu, who worked very hard to make sure we got funding and the necessary documentation that we needed to do to qualify for certain sponsorships. So Dr. Cantu, please come on up, because we definitely need to recognize your efforts. Thank you. And then someone that, oh my goodness, I would not be able to deliver what we have delivered this weekend for you. Someone who's always a phone call away, and when we don't have the resources, we just find a way to borrow, beg, or steal. And she's just amazing. She will be moving later on to St. Augustine, but I know she's going to continue the work over there because Maria M. Marrero Neville is just priceless, and she is just irreplaceable. And I know that I'm already suffering that she's going to St. Augustine, so I told her she just has to come down on the weekends and be with us. My husband has a motorcycle that I refuse to go 5 hours, but I may have to just to go to St. Augustine. And we were going to have some special guests coming from Orlando. I want you to understand that we send invitations to every single senator and every single representative, commissioner, mayors, everyone that is an elected official. I sent it, Amanda sent it, and Real Talk, Patricia Richardson also sent it. I want to recognize Patricia. If you could stand up, Patricia from Real Talk. She's our lead person for Real Talk. She has worked behind the scenes to make sure that we invite different people that needed to come and listen to the organization. Patricia Richardson, please come on up from Real Talk. When things got busy, a text to her, can you do this, can you do that? And she always followed through, so thank you very much. Oh, we'll go down because she has, you want us to go down? You good? Okay. I'm good. We'll go back.
Thank you.
Thank you. We want to recognize Amy Mercado, Representative Amy Mercado, Roberto Asensio, Victor Torres. Something happened, they were on their way here, but they got an emergency call, so they had to turn around, and Representative Mercado actually called and apologized for not being here tonight. So we'll reach out to her, and we hope that everything is well. But Victor and his wife had to return, our senator had to return back, so we're just praying that everything is okay. But we want to give them a round of applause because they are also amazing people in Orlando that they're a phone call away whenever we need to act. Jose Javier Rodriguez also wanted to let me know he had a previous engagement and he really was upset that he cannot attend. Yesterday he sent somebody from his office to be with us during the organizational roundtable, but he wanted to also make sure that you knew that he couldn't get out of a commitment that he had, but he wished he would be here today. And then our Miami PTA, Nancy Lauder, most of you know her, and she's always getting us involved as well, especially when there's legislation that is not good for children, to also make sure that we do this call to action. We also have our sponsors that we would like to recognize, the Leadership Conference Education Fund. I think they're still here, right? Yes, please come on up so we could recognize you. This partnership has been amazing. And I want to thank the committee for putting together this MOU, that we were able to deliver some support and some parental guidance in areas in, was it Orlando or did you, Tampa? You went to Tampa, right? Tampa and in FIU. So without this leadership, without this sponsorship, it would not be possible. So thank you very much. We also like to recognize the Florida Education Association. Ron had another commitment, but we want to recognize them. The Children's Trust, WIDA, and Herbalife Nutrition, and make sure you take your bars, especially when you're hungry. So put it in your purse and make sure you eat those protein bars. And the League of Women's Voters, that I cannot say enough. They're always out there making sure that we register voters. Now, she walked off from stage too fast, but we're going to call her back up. Oh, yes, in Florida Education, they're not here. But advanced assessments, we cannot forget you. Please come on up. We have a certificate for you. They've been with us these 2 years in a row, and we're happy to have Jackie with us. She's also a great resource if you need to do PD for in professional development, or if you need to educate your parents, or you're engaged and involve your communities. She's a great resource to have, so thank you very much. Thank you. Honored. Now, LULAC Florida Director's Award goes to Senator Annette Tadeo, And we want to thank you for your outstanding service and dedication to our communities. Okay, so, and now we're going to proceed by giving some time to candidates that are aspiring to represent us in Tallahassee and locally. So please, we're going to start with Tim Canova. If he went to the restroom, so we'll get somebody. Miguel Mike Mirabal, are you here? Yes, he is. So if you could come up, and we want to give them, because it's very important that we listen to them and make a good choice when we go to vote. And remember, primaries are super important, so please make sure you vote in the primaries.
Thank you very much. I'm Mike Mirabal. I'm running for judge. I was born in Miami, grew up in Miami, studied in Miami, and also in Orlando. Been in public service for many years since I was a kid, and I've been working now as a lawyer for 15 years in pretty much every branch in law that you could do here in the community. It's my time now to work for Miami-Dade County. As Senator Tadeo said, you take it in the blood. It's something that it's innate in you, and after a while you really you see what's going on, you see the changes, you see how you can give back. And the way I can give back being a lawyer is being a judge. Being a judge for Miami-Dade County, being a judge for the residents, being a judge who listens, who cares. With so much controversy nowadays, you say, wow, you need somebody a little bit more level-headed, even-keeled, somebody who can listen to both sides, somebody who can be a little bit more calm and thinks things more rationally. That's one of the reasons I'm running now for Dade County. I would leave private practice and go to work for the voters, go to work for you guys. So I'm very honored to be here in LULAC today. I'm also here representing Salad. Juan de Arce couldn't be here now, so I'm here in his place. And I ask for everyone's vote, support, and not only that, please go and vote. It is so important, not just for Congress, in Tallahassee, for the state reps and senator, but also for judges, because a lot of times people don't go to Tallahassee. They don't see their legislatures. They don't see their congressmen or congresswomen, but they get a ticket, or they get an eviction, or they get a divorce, or God forbid somebody in their family dies. And you need to be in front of a judge, and you want to know that that judge is going to be somebody who's caring, who's has good morals, somebody who knows the law, and somebody who's going to be very even-keeled when they come in to make a decision. So it's very important that you guys vote, and tell everybody who you know to please vote, not just in August in the primaries, but also in November. So I'm Mike Mirabal, running for Dade County Court Judge, and I would be pleased to have your vote. Thank you very much.
Elaine Sosa Brusen.
Thank you. As a lawyer, I'm used to standing behind the podium, so I'm just going to go ahead and stand here. You know, I am also running for Miami-Dade County Court Judge in a separate group than Mr. Mirabal. This is by far one of the most important elections for us in August for judges. There are between 6 and 7 open seats, which means that the sitting judges are retiring and a new set of lawyers will come in as judges. So I often say that many people worry who the president is and who your congressman is and who your senators is, and that is very, very important. But you forget that the judges, the law, is where the lines of our lives are drawn. And I can give you some information about my experience. I've been a lawyer for 13 years. I've practiced as a public defender for the first 6.5 years. So I understand what it is to serve our community. I think one of the underlining themes today that we heard from all the speakers, the Senator, yourself included, is the language barrier. After 6.5 years, I started practicing in civil practice, and I did numerous things. 2 years ago, I began doing more community service, and one of the things that I would do is help the elderly community, because oftentimes our elderly community do not speak the language. They do not understand the law. It's very difficult when you come in front of a county court judge who is the people's court, and they are frustrated because an elderly person can't speak the language and there's not enough money to get an interpreter there on time and to move your calendar quickly. And that became very frustrating for me as an attorney helping, because I understood that that's not fair. You know, we are here as judges to serve our community, and our community is made up by a gambit of people, and everyone deserves respect, and everybody deserves the opportunity to be heard. And my platform is that. I did it as a public defender. I spearheaded a program in Broward County that put together attorneys who spoke the same language as our criminal defendants. Can you imagine being accused of a crime, walking into a courtroom, and the attorney who's supposed to zealously represent you can't even speak your language? How do you speak to this person? Sitting 30, 45 minutes for an interpreter that may or may not come. This has been a huge proponent for me, and I have pretty much spent my whole career trying to fix that and how I can bring that to my community. So about 2.5 years ago, I had an opportunity to return to public service, and I've been working for the date of August 28th, 72 days from now for that. And I ask for your vote because I think it's important that as your judges, you get a representation of who your community is. And I think that I am that person. And so I ask for your support. I have my cards. I didn't hand them all out, but my information is on there, including my cell phone. I like to say that I don't want to ask for your vote so much as earn your vote. So I am at your disposal to speak with, to learn more about me. It's very difficult for judges because we are nonpartisan. So we're neither Republican or Democrat, and we can't stand on any issues. We have to stand on our integrity, on our value, and on our heart, and on our hard work. And so I'm here for that. Thank you all very, very much for your support.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Our own LULAC member, Richard Tapia, if you could come on up, please.
Once again, thank you for inviting me. It's been a great 2 days being with so many friends. My name is Richard Tapia, Rick Tapia, and I'm running for the State House in District 103 as a Democrat. And I'm running because people like me normally aren't expected to run for office. My father was a fisherman from Cuba. When he arrived to the United States, he was a truck driver. My mom basically taught at a vocational school. And when she arrived here at 15, she didn't speak a word of English. And I started thinking to myself, how her life would have been different had we had the bilingual education programs that so many people around this room have advocated for. And I said this the other night, that in many ways, I'm the beneficiary. I have inherited a legacy, not only from my parents, but from everybody here in this room, of being able to be in a public educational system that acts as the great equalizer in America. In fact, the one thing that makes America very unique and very special is that we were one of the first nations on the planet to have a public educational system. In fact, it was the Boston School District that started it, and it expanded throughout the United States. And at one point, America was, let's say, the #1 country when it came to public education. But as we've gone decades away from the Great Society programs, we begin to see that public education is under attack. The cost of living has gone up. Our wages have stayed stagnant. Healthcare has gone up, but yet covers less. And more, it seems like the promise of America has eroded away. However, America was built on hope, and we will defend the principles it was founded upon, and we will restore the promise of America that we are all created equal with inalienable rights, and that includes a right to health care. And we are going to basically fight, and I'm going to fight to make sure we expand Medicaid in the Florida legislature, and we expand Florida Kid Care to include not just working families, but middle-class families as well. That includes also fighting for a right to an education, which is in our Florida Constitution, and I believe that should be interpreted to include tuition-free public college as well. We should make sure we should make sure that the district cost differential that went away back in 2000 and 2002 should be restored to the funding formula to make sure that our public schools are financed the way that other school districts are financed as well. I also believe that we have to make sure that affordable housing becomes affordable by making sure the legislature does not raid the Affordable Housing Trust Fund year after year after year. These are the principles for New Florida. These are principles on how we restore the promise of America and how we restore it not just for the top 1% for millionaires and billionaires, but we make it work for the middle class and the working poor. So that the next generation, we speak about the greatest generation, but the greatest generation should always be the next generation. And that's what I want to work to make sure, that the next generation that comes forward is greater than the one before. And I thank you all for having me up here. Again, my name is Rick Tapia. I'm running for the State House in District 103. And I'll also like to introduce Tim Canova. I don't know, I just saw him a second ago. Right over here, Mari asked me to introduce him as he comes up. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm Tim Canova. I'm running for Congress in Florida's 23rd Congressional District. I'm a law professor at Nova Southeastern University. I teach law and public finance. Never thought I'd run for a political office before 2 years ago when I ran for Congress. Want to just say a few words about myself. That my father was an immigrant. He came here as a 2-year-old on a boat from Europe. And I know tomorrow's Father's Day. I just want to wish everyone a happy Father's Day and acknowledge, I think, the most senior father who's here. David Sinclair came from Tampa with his father, John. How about a round of applause for John Sinclair? My dad was a greatest generation guy, and the family was an immigrant family that pulled together, lived in Brooklyn, New York. My dad served in the U.S. Army Air Force in World War II. And like 16 million other returning veterans, was a recipient of the GI Bill of Rights. And the GI Bill of Rights was sort of like the New Deal on steroids. When you think of what was covered under that bill, tuition-free higher education at any university, public or private, anywhere in the world with a living stipend, health care, low-interest loans to start your own small business, and low-interest loans for mortgages. And that GI Bill of Rights, I'll tell you, that's what we need today. I ran for Congress 2 years ago against an incumbent congresswoman who happened to be the head of the Democratic National Committee at the time. And I ran because I was very upset with the direction that the Democratic Party was going, a very corporate-oriented direction, and it seemed to be selling out its values all the time. So we ran a very spirited campaign. I just want to say a word or two about the outcome, because it's troubling. We had our concerns. We were knocking on 10,000 to 12,000 doors a week, and our internal field numbers showed a far different result than the official result. So I put in a public records request with the Broward County Supervisor of Elections to inspect the paper ballots. And for that, I was called a sore loser, and we put in the public records request anyway. For 7 months, the Broward Supervisor stonewalled us. We filed a lawsuit last June. While the lawsuit was pending, the Broward Supervisor of Elections destroyed all the paper ballots in violation of federal law, state law, destruction of evidence, and an ongoing litigation. This is wrong. It shouldn't be happening in the United States of America. We're trying to get that supervisor removed from office. There should be consequences for that kind of wrongdoing. And we want the folks to know, the election officials, that we will sue next time from day one. You know, the vote is our most sacred right as Americans, and we have to safeguard it. Well, I'm running again this time, and I'm very honored and happy to be here at LULAC. As a law professor in Southern California some years ago, I worked with LULAC. And the theme of this conference today, empowering communities. I want to say, just like our previous speaker talked about, we need to rebuild K-12 public schools. I have a public school education, K-12, and it was a great education. I'm alarmed at what we see here, both in Miami-Dade and Broward counties. Schools that are falling apart, teachers that are way underpaid, schools that have mold and mildew in them. Hundreds of children and teachers and staff getting sick every week. And what's the solution? If I go to Congress, I'll tell you the solution I like is what John Kennedy was talking about in 1960 when he debated Richard Nixon. Kennedy said the federal government should be subsidizing local school teacher salaries. I still believe in that. He said that if we don't go that direction, you're going to have a system of very unequal education where wealthy neighborhoods have good education and everyone else doesn't. And I think he was absolutely right and way ahead of his time. The other, just another word about empowering communities. I want to say a word about Puerto Rico. Here we are, that territory was in a crisis before the hurricane hit last year. It needed rebuilding, it needed federal aid, and it wasn't getting it. What I've been proposing, and again, I'm a professor of law and public finance, you take a look at the Federal Reserve, the nation's central bank. 10 years ago, our economy fell off a cliff, the financial markets fell off a cliff, and the Federal Reserve came to the rescue of Wall Street. It made trillions and trillions of dollars. In just the first 2 years after the crash, $26 trillion of low-interest loans at 0.25% interest, while my law students were paying 13% interest. The Federal Reserve right now should do the same thing. This conference is talking about empowering communities and equity. The equitable thing to do would be for the Federal Reserve to start giving, a lifeline to Puerto Rico, loans at 0.25%, loans to union pension funds that are facing insolvency, and it should push money into infrastructure. We need a genuine full employment economy. What we have today is not. The official unemployment rate is a joke. Millions of Americans have dropped out of the labor force. Millennials 18 to 34-year-olds more likely to be living at home with their parents than starting on their own. And my generation has taken it on the chin. I know so many folks who have not bounced back. For them, for many Americans, this is year 10 of a Great Depression. I want to serve in Congress because I want to serve the people and not the big corporate interests. Thank you very much. Tim Canova, Florida's 23rd Congressional District. Thank you. Thank you so much.
No, thank you.
Really appreciate it.
No, please, thank you. And now we would like to call someone who's very dear to us, and the Caninos have been so instrumental for LULAC Florida, and to bring LULAC Florida here to all of us, to make sure that we continue the work that our national organization is doing, and to make sure that we have strong councils throughout the state. So I would like to call Edna Canino to come on up.
Thank you. Good evening. As she mentioned, my name is Edna Canino, and I'm here on as a woman commissioner for Southeast of LULAC, the National Women's Commission. And before we close this conference, I think that all of us know that we have had a very, very successful conference with the work of all the LULACers and all our sponsors. And therefore, Mari, the LULAC National Women's Commission for the Southeast Award, this is being given to you for the exemplary leadership as LULAC Florida State Director and for your personal commitment of services towards the expansion and enhancement of Hispanic and other minority communities in the areas of education, employment, immigration, health, civil rights, and women issues in the state of Florida. Your advocacy and leadership are commendable. As a strong woman leader, you do not only stand up for yourself, but you stand up for everyone else, and we're very proud of you. And the red cover is for the courage, dedication, and advocacy that Mari gives us. Thank you.
Thank you, Edna. Oh my God. It's with great pleasure that I go ahead and lead these wonderful people who have taught me a lot, because to think that you do things alone is not true. There's not one person in this world that does anything alone. I think that people come into our lives through the seasons to make us uncomfortable, to kind of, like she said, to pose challenges, and to make us rethink what our purpose is in life. And I am very thankful for each person that has come into my life, positive and negative, because those that came in negatively brought a quiet teacher into somebody that said, not me, not my people, and we're going to create change. And change is not easy. Change is not easy. And there's many times that we all want to say, is this even worth it, right? You give so much time, and you take time from your family, but then when you see the difference that you make in people, and when you see what we can all do together, then it's when you answer that question that yes, it is. Y sí se puede. And yes, we can. And we will not be put down, and we will not be silenced. We will come out of this. I don't know why this is happening, because, that is a big question of through these years that when we thought we were making so much progress, that now we see that we are back, years back. And when I try to understand people, because forget political parties, we kind of try, and I say, why? Because to me, it's much easier to be nicer and to do right. I think it's much harder to be just a person who's just selfless and selfish and doesn't even see the value that we all bring to the table. We are all different, and that's the beauty in Miami, that is the beauty in Puerto Rico, that is the beauty in Colombia, that is the beauty in Nicaragua. And at the end of the day, we all belong to one thing, and it's the human race. And if we're really under God and looking up to God, whatever God we serve, right? We have to understand that we do not have the privilege to say who deserves equality and who doesn't. And under our flag, which is something that is really, really dear to me, we are all equal. And we need to understand that. So just because somebody is different, or sometimes because we think we're prettier than somebody, or we think we're better, you're not, and I'm not. We are all the same. We just bring something different to the table. So we have to recognize that and be kind to each other and understand that we have one purpose in life, is to pay it forward and make sure that we provide the best world for each other. So with that, I want to say thank you. With immense, and for staying, because I know a lot of people are tired, and I know this has been an intense 3 days, but I really want to thank those of you who stayed to the end, and we have a little entertainment for you so we could mingle and we could celebrate each other and being here, because I am excited about that round table, and we have our marching orders from that round table, and we are going to continue the work, and I'm going to be calling on each and every one of you to make sure that we bring the Hispanic community to the table and say, sí se puede.